They fined me $500 for fishing, so I bought their 12-acre lake for $47,000 and banned the entire HOA from ever using it again. This woman thought she could bully a Navy veteran with bogus fines and made-up rules. Big mistake, because while she was busy power tripping, I discovered something beautiful. Their precious lake? The HOA never actually owned it. So I bought it at a county tax auction for pocket change. Now, Karen's looking at my private property through her kitchen window every morning, knowing she can't set foot near the water that used to be hers. The smell of fresh lake air and sweet, sweet revenge? Priceless. What would you do if your HOA tried to fine you for using your own community amenities? Drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from. My name's Dalton Reeves, 52, retired Navy logistics, and 3 years ago I moved to Willowbrook Estates, thinking I'd found the perfect place to fish in peace after my wife Miranda died. The neighborhood looked ideal. 47 homes around a 12-acre lake. Original HOA covenant promising unrestricted recreational access for all residents. I paid my $200 monthly dues and settled into a routine. 5 a.m. coffee, tackle box that still smells like old leather and better days, sunrise fishing that kept me sane. For 6 months, paradise. Then came Bethany Whitmore. Real estate agent 42 drives a spotless white Escalade and wears heels to check mailboxes. At first, she seemed normal, brought cookies, made small talk, even admired my fishing setup. But the day after she got elected HOA president, everything changed. Suddenly, I'm getting visits about lake usage protocols. Suddenly, there's a $75 annual fishing fee for maintenance and security. When I mentioned that lake access was already covered in our HOA dues, Bethany's smile went ice cold. Rules are rules, Dalton. Pay up or no fishing. Here's what 24 years in the Navy teaches you. Bullies escalate when you comply. So I kept fishing. Same time, same spot, same peaceful routine that helped me process grief. The gentle sound of water lapping against the dock, morning mist rising off the surface. This was my therapy. 3 weeks later, the fine arrived. $500. Printed on cheap paper with smudged ink from her home printer. Violation, unauthorized use of common area amenities. I'm staring at this thing thinking, what kind of person fines a widower for fishing in his own neighborhood? Bethany knocked on my door the next morning, clipboard in hand, heels clicking on my porch like a metronome of annoyance. This is your formal notice to cease all lake activities until fees are current. Ma'am, I said, I've dealt with worse than HOA Karens in 3 different war zones. Her face cycled through 6 shades of red before she spun around and clicked back to her Escalade. But as she drove off, I caught her expression in the rearview mirror. Pure rage. The look of someone who'd just been challenged by the wrong person. That night, I pulled out the original HOA covenant I'd saved from when I bought the house. Page 12, Section 4. Lake designated as unrestricted recreational amenity for all residents in perpetuity. In perpetuity, forever, no exceptions, no fees, no Bethany. But here's where it gets interesting. Because the next morning, I wake up to find orange cones blocking the path to the lake. Not just my path, everybody's path. A shiny new sign reads, Lake access restricted, permits required. Bethany had escalated overnight from targeting me to locking down the entire lake. Mrs. Kowalski, 78 years old, stands at her kitchen window looking heartbroken. The Henderson kids ask their parents why they can't swim anymore. The Patels wonder why their evening walks are suddenly violations. That's when I realized this wasn't about fishing fees or lake maintenance. This was about power. Bethany had tasted control and decided she wanted more. Standing on my deck that morning looking at those ridiculous orange cones, I felt something shift. The same feeling I got in the Navy when supply chains broke down and everyone said the mission was impossible. That cold, calculating mindset that turns problems into opportunities. Bethany thought she was dealing with some sad old fisherman she could push around. She had no idea she'd just declared war on someone who spent decades solving impossible puzzles under pressure. The smell of fresh coffee mixed with morning lake air, and for the first time since Miranda died, I smiled a real smile. Because Bethany Whitmore was about to learn why you never corner a Navy logistics officer who's got nothing left to lose. This was going to be fun. Bethany called an emergency HOA board meeting 3 days after the orange cone lockdown. Emergency, like the clubhouse was on fire. I show up to find three people: Bethany, Bob Martinez, who looks uncomfortable, and Janet Anderson, who clearly wishes she was home watching Netflix. 3 out of 7 board members. In the real world, that's not a quorum. In HOA Fantasyland, it's apparently enough to rewrite the Constitution. Motion to implement enhanced lake usage protocols, Bethany announces without preamble. She slides a typed document across the table, prepared in advance, naturally. Fishing restricted to 10 a.m. through 2 p.m. weekends only, $25 daily fee payable in advance. Janet's jaw drops. $25? Every day? Plus, retroactive enforcement, Bethany continues smoothly. Mr. Reeves owes $1,200 for unauthorized usage over the past month. The room goes dead silent except for the buzz of fluorescent lights overhead. Bob shifts like his chair just caught fire. Janet stares at the paper like it might explode. All in favor? Bethany's hand shoots up. Bob reluctantly follows. Janet keeps her hands glued to the table. Motion carries. That night, I'm researching in my garage when I stumble across something beautiful. The original 1987 HOA covenant buried in county records. Page 12 makes my heart sing. No additional fees or usage limitations may be imposed without amendment by 75% of homeowners. 75%. Not 3 people in a back room with delusions of grandeur. Here's your knowledge nugget. Original HOA covenants supersede later board decisions unless 3/4 of all homeowners vote to amend them. Most HOA boards either don't know this or pray you don't either. I take the documents to Marcus Webb, the real estate attorney my Navy buddy recommended. Marcus reads for 90 seconds, then grins like he just found buried treasure. Your HOA president stepped in legal quicksand. Want to sue? Not yet. Let's see how much rope she needs. But here's where Bethany makes her critical error. She doesn't stop with me. Suddenly, everyone's getting violations. Mrs. Kowalski gets cited for garbage cans improperly positioned. The Hendersons receive notices about grass height. Mr. Patel's perfectly fine fence becomes non-compliant. The sound of Bethany's measuring tape clicking against concrete becomes our neighborhood's new horror movie soundtrack. She visits Mrs. Kowalski with military precision, measuring the exact distance from can to curb, making satisfied sounds when she finds violations. Then comes my counterpunch. I start documenting everything, not just photos, video. Bethany measuring grass with a ruler, recorded. Her examining fence posts with a magnifying glass, captured. Her standing in people's driveways taking notes like some suburban CIA agent, all of it. But the real twist comes when I dig deeper into the security contract. $18,000 for a part-time teenager to watch me fish. I request the HOA financial records legally required to be available to homeowners. Bethany tries to stall, but Marcus sends one polite letter and suddenly I'm sitting in the HOA office with a banker's box of documents. The smell of musty paperwork and impending discovery fills the air. That's when I found it. Bethany approved the security contract with Willowbrook Patrol Services, a company owned by her brother-in-law. $18,000 of neighborhood money flowing directly to her family. Game changer. Meanwhile, Jimmy Cortez, the 19-year-old security guard, approaches me on his first day like he's approaching a live grenade. Sir, I need to ask you to stop fishing. You asking or telling, son? Honestly, I have no idea. This is the weirdest job ever. I pour him coffee from my thermos. Jimmy's dad served 2 tours in Afghanistan, and we bond over military family stories. But more importantly, Jimmy starts sharing information. She's got me writing reports about your aggressive behavior, he tells me. But dude, you just sit there drinking coffee and feeding ducks. What kind of reports? like, subject displayed threatening posture by casting fishing line in intimidating manner. Not making this up. That's when the plan crystallizes. Bethany thinks she's building a case against me, but she's actually creating evidence of harassment. Every bogus report Jimmy files becomes proof of her vindictive campaign. The next morning, I'm back at my usual spot with tackle box and folding chair, but now I wave cheerfully at Bethany's kitchen window. I even brought a small cooler and a gone fishing sign. Through Jimmy, I learned she spent 20 minutes on the phone screaming at someone about escalating the situation. The woman who thought she could intimidate a Navy veteran with clipboard fascism is about to discover that some people fight back. And the beautiful part? She still has no idea that her precious lake authority is built on legal quicksand, or that her brother-in-law's security contract just became Exhibit A in a potential lawsuit. Keep digging, Bethany. I've got all day. Bethany's next escalation blindsided everyone. She doesn't just double down, she goes full nuclear. Enhanced security protocols effective immediately, announces her neighborhood email blast. Due to escalating aggressive behavior, Willowbrook Patrol Services will expand to evening shifts and incident documentation. Evening shifts? To watch a guy who fishes at sunrise? Jimmy shows up Monday looking like his dog died. They want me to file behavioral incident reports every time you do anything. Such as? Like, subject displayed threatening posture by opening tackle box in aggressive manner. I'm supposed to write this stuff with a straight face. The kid's mortified. Over coffee, he tells me about his community college criminology classes. Professor says documentation should be objective. This is just creative writing. But Bethany's not finished. She calls county code enforcement, reporting me for unauthorized dock construction. My crime? A folding chair and tackle box. Dave Brennan, the code officer, arrives Thursday morning looking confused. He's a reasonable guy who clearly doesn't want to be here. Got a complaint about unpermitted structure? I gesture to my setup. Dave, what exactly am I supposed to have built? He examines my chair like it might suddenly sprout pilings. That's when Bethany marches over in her power suit, pointing at my gear like she's discovered a meth lab. The EPA equipment creates a permanent fishing station violating setback requirements. Dave stares at her. Ma'am, it's a folding chair. I demand documentation of this illegal structure. A smell of desperation mixed with expensive perfume fills the morning air. Dave scribbles in his notebook, but his expression suggests he's writing waste of taxpayer time. Here's where I deploy my counterpunch. That afternoon, I'm at the courthouse filing a formal complaint against the HOA for harassment and misuse of funds. Not a lawsuit, just an official complaint that triggers county investigation. Here's your knowledge nugget. Counties investigate HOA financial misconduct when residents file formal complaints, and they have subpoena power to examine all contracts and expenditures. Marcus helps me document everything. Bethany's brother-in-law's security contract, bogus violation patterns, abuse of emergency board meetings. The county has 60 days to investigate and respond. But my real masterstroke? I request a formal property survey of the lake boundaries. Why? Marcus asks. If Bethany wants to play property rights games, let's make sure everyone knows where the actual boundaries are. The survey reveals something interesting. The lake extends 15 feet beyond what most people think. Some residents' docks and landscaping actually encroach on lake property, including Bethany's decorative stone border. Suddenly, she's potentially violating the same setback requirements she's using against me. Meanwhile, Bethany escalates to character assassination. She starts door-to-door visits, spreading the dangerous veteran narrative. Jimmy reports her latest talking points. Unstable behavior, potential PTSD, could snap at any moment. That's when my military training kicks in. You don't fight smear campaigns with anger, you fight them with character witnesses. I start community building. Mrs. Kowalski invites me for Pierogi Tuesday, her kitchen smelling like dough and onions, while she shares stories about her late husband's army service. Bethany's scared because you won't roll over, she says. Bullies hate backbone. The Henderson family walks by during morning fishing, their 8-year-old asking to watch me cast. Instead of shooing them away, I invite them to sit on the dock. Want to learn to tie a fishing knot, Sarah? For 30 minutes, their daughter practices while her parents relax. The sound of children laughing over water. That's what this neighborhood used to be about. Word spreads through the resistance network. 12 families now openly support me, sharing their own Bethany harassment stories. Mr. Patel got fined for excessive holiday decorations, 2 small American flags. The Kowalskis were cited for unauthorized bird feeding. But here's my psychological warfare masterpiece. I start bringing a bigger thermos and extra coffee cups. When neighbors walk by, I offer coffee and friendly conversation right in front of Bethany's window. The sight of community gathering peacefully while she watches from inside, isolated and furious, priceless. Jimmy becomes my unofficial intelligence source. She's talking about hiring a lawyer to permanently remove the threat. Also, she's been making calls to someone about property acquisition options. That gets my attention. What property acquisition? Meanwhile, I maintain perfect documentation of everything. Morning fishing routine with timestamps, video of each harassment incident, records of every bogus violation, I'm building an ironclad case while appearing to just enjoy lake access. The county investigation letter arrives at the HOA office, requesting all financial records and board meeting minutes. Bethany's panic is visible from space. She responds by posting new signs around the lake. Security cameras active, all activities monitored. Cameras to watch fishing. At this point, even her supporters are questioning her sanity. But something Jimmy says bothers me. Property acquisition options. What's she planning? That night, I can't shake the feeling that Bethany knows something I don't. Time to dig deeper into exactly who owns what around here. Bethany goes completely unhinged when she calls county code enforcement for the third time, now claiming my morning coffee routine constitutes loitering with intent to disturb wildlife. I'm sitting peacefully with my thermos when Officer Dave Brennan arrives, looking absolutely done with life. He's accompanied by someone from Fish and Wildlife who clearly lost a bet to be here. "Ma'am," the wildlife officer tells Bethany after watching me feed breadcrumbs to ducks, "feeding waterfowl isn't a federal crime." What about disruption of natural feeding patterns, unauthorized wildlife interaction? Dave rubs his temples like he's fighting a migraine. "Mrs. Whitmore, we've been out here 4 times. The man is fishing legally in his own neighborhood." But Bethany's desperation reaches nuclear levels when she plays her next card. She contacts my former Navy supervisors. Jimmy reports this bombshell during our morning coffee ritual. "She somehow got hold of your old command contact info and called them asking about your psychological fitness?" My blood turns to ice water. "She did what?" "Hey, call Commander Peterson asking if you showed signs of PTSD or violent tendencies. Wanted to know if you were dangerous to civilian populations." The sheer audacity hits me like a freight train. This woman just tried to sabotage my military reputation over a fishing dispute? Here's my counterpunch. I call Peterson myself. "Dalton," he laughs when I explain the situation. "Some real estate lady called asking if you were mentally unstable. I told her you were one of the most level-headed sailors I ever commanded and that she might want to reconsider whatever she's planning." But Peterson's next words changed everything. She mentioned something about documenting evidence for a legal case. "Dalton, you might want to lawyer up." Legal case. Bethany's not just harassing me. She's building towards something bigger. I immediately schedule an emergency meeting with Marcus. His law office smells like leather and brewing storms as I explain Bethany's escalation to military background checks. "She's preparing for a restraining order," Marcus says grimly. "Document everything. Phone calls, harassment, attempts to contact your former employers. We're moving into serious legal territory." That evening, Bethany calls a community emergency meeting at the clubhouse. The email subject line reads, "Addressing escalating security threats." 28 people show up, including several who come just for the entertainment. Bethany stands at the front like she's briefing Congress on national security. This individual has demonstrated escalating patterns of aggressive noncompliance that pose clear risks to community safety. Mrs. Kowalski interrupts. "Bethany, what exactly has he done that's aggressive?" Defiant continuation of unauthorized activities, despite multiple official warnings, demonstrates contempt for lawful authority and potential for violence. The silence in the room could be cut with a knife. She's describing fishing like it's domestic terrorism. Henderson raises his hand. "Are we seriously discussing a restraining order against someone for fishing?" That's when Bethany drops her bombshell. "I've consulted with legal counsel about protective measures, including potential involuntary psychological evaluation." The room erupts. Involuntary psych eval? For fishing? Mrs. Kowalski stands up, her voice shaking with anger. "Bethany Whitmore, you should be ashamed of yourself. This man lost his wife and found peace fishing in our lake. What kind of person tries to destroy that?" Half the room applauds. The other half sits in stunned silence. But the real twist comes from an unexpected source. Mr. Patel, who rarely speaks at meetings, clears his throat. "Before we discuss psychological evaluations, perhaps we should discuss financial ones. I'm an accountant, and I've been reviewing our HOA expenditures." He pulls out a folder. $18,000 for security services from a company owned by Mrs. Whitmore's brother-in-law. Multiple violations issued exclusively to residents who've questioned board decisions, emergency meetings held without proper notice. The room temperature drops 10 degrees. Patel continues. "I'm calling for a forensic audit of HOA finances and a vote of no confidence in current board leadership." Bethany's face goes from red to white to green. That's completely inappropriate. What's inappropriate, Mrs. Kowalski interjects, is using our money to harass our neighbors. The meeting dissolves into chaos. Bethany storms out, heels clicking like machine gun fire on the linoleum. Jimmy later reports she spent 30 minutes in her car making frantic phone calls. But here's the beautiful part. Her nuclear option backfired. Instead of isolating me, she's united the neighborhood against her. The next morning, I'm fishing peacefully when a caravan of supporters arrives. Mrs. Kowalski with fresh coffee, the Hendersons with donuts, the Patels with folding chairs. What started as one guy fishing becomes an impromptu community gathering. The sound of children laughing, neighbors chatting, and coffee brewing by the lake. This is what Bethany's been trying to destroy. From her kitchen window, she watches 30 people enjoying the lake access she's tried to eliminate. But something Jimmy says bothers me. Those frantic phone calls after the meeting. What's her next move? Time to find out exactly what Bethany Whitmore is really planning. The breakthrough comes at 2:17 IAI when insomnia and rage make me pull every property document I can find. Sometimes the best discoveries happen when you can't sleep. I'm sitting in my garage surrounded by HOA papers, county records, and cold coffee when something catches my eye in the original 1987 deed. The lake property has a different parcel number than the common areas. Why would a lake have its own parcel number? 4 hours later, I'm in the courthouse basement, breathing dust and defeat under buzzing fluorescent lights, digging through filing cabinets that smell like bureaucratic purgatory. That's when I find the document that changes everything. Original deed from Willowbrook Development Corp. to the HOA. Management easement for maintenance purposes only, fee simple ownership retained by grantor. I read it 3 times before it sinks in. The HOA never owned the lake. They got maintenance rights. Basically permission to cut grass and stock fish. Bethany's been playing dictator over property that was never hers to control. But the real bombshell hits when I cross-section the current property tax records. Willowbrook Development Corp. Back taxes owed $47,247.83. Last payment, 2019. My hands actually shake as I dial Marcus at 6 a.m. Do you know what a tax lien auction is? I ask without preamble. Jesus, Dalton, it's 6 in the morning. But yes, county sells properties to recover unpaid taxes. Why? The lake goes to auction in 6 weeks. Minimum bid $47,000. The silence stretches so long I think the call dropped. Then, holy fucking shit. Here's your knowledge nugget. Tax lien auctions transfer complete ownership for unpaid back taxes, often at pennies on the dollar, and they're buried in legal notices where normal people never look. Marcus, what's a 12-acre lake worth in this neighborhood? Conservatively, $500,000. But Dalton, if someone else knows about this auction, someone does. I'm looking at the registered bidders list on the county website. Willowbrook Property Management, LLC, registered owner, Bethany Whitmore. The pieces slammed together like a freight train hitting my brain. Those phone calls after the community meeting, she wasn't panicking about votes of no confidence. She was arranging financing to buy the lake. Her entire campaign makes perfect sense now. Eliminate the problem residents, buy the lake at auction, then charge the same neighbors she terrorized premium fees for access to what they thought they owned. She's been running a con from day one, I tell Marcus. Use fake HOA authority to clear opposition, then buy real authority to make the scam legal. Brilliant and sociopathic, Marcus admits. If she wins that auction, she owns the lake outright, can charge admission, ban fishing, turn it into whatever she wants. The audacity is breathtaking. Harass your neighbors with bogus fines, then steal their lake access and sell it back to them. But Bethany made one critical miscalculation. She assumed I'd fold under pressure like her other victims. Marcus, I need a loan, pre-approval, today. How much? Whatever it takes to outbid her. That afternoon, I'm back at my usual fishing spot, casting lines while my brain runs logistics calculations. Military pension plus contractor income equals solid collateral for a property loan. Bethany's watching from her kitchen window, probably counting down to auction day when she owns the water under my fishing line. The smell of lake water mixed with impending justice, it's intoxicating. She thinks she's playing chess while I'm playing checkers. But Navy logistics taught me something valuable. The person who controls the supply chain controls the outcome. And this supply chain just became available for hostile takeover. Every cast of my line now carries different meaning. I'm not just fishing for therapy anymore. I'm fishing in waters I'm about to own. 6 weeks until Bethany Whitmore learns what happens when you try to steal from a Navy man who's got nothing left to lose. My garage becomes mission control. Property maps cover every surface, bank documents stack next to Miranda's old fishing photos, and a countdown calendar marks 29 days until the tax auction that will determine whether Bethany steals our neighborhood or I save it. The smell of coffee and determination fills the space as Marcus spreads legal documents across my workbench like battle plans. Your military pension makes you a solid loan candidate, he says, but we need multiple funding sources. Bethany's not going in unprepared. I've got $52,000 0 cents in savings plus pre-approval for an $80,000 0 cents property loan. More importantly, I've got something Bethany doesn't: the moral authority of fighting for community instead of personal profit. Jimmy's intelligence reports reveal the scope of her planning. She's been meeting with contractors about installing entry gates and admission booths. Also, she's pricing liability insurance for recreational water activities. And she's not just buying a lake, she's building a business model around stolen community assets. But here's where my Navy training kicks in. You don't win operations through resources alone, you win through superior planning and community support. Mrs. Kowalsk becomes my unofficial campaign manager, organizing coffee gatherings that smell like cinnamon rolls and quiet revolution. Neighbors share Bethany horror stories, the Hendersons banned from swimming, the Patels fined for patriotic decorations, elderly residents afraid to use their own mailboxes. She's destroyed what this neighborhood used to be, Mrs. Kowalski says, her voice shaking with anger. Whatever you're planning, Dalton, we're praying for you. The property survey reveals Bethany's vulnerability. Marcus hires a professional surveyor who discovers that several properties, including hers, have landscaping encroaching on lake boundaries. If she owns the lake, she could force neighbors to remove decks, gardens, even mature trees, Marcus explains. The legal fees would bankrupt half the street. My contractor background becomes crucial for understanding true property management costs. 12-acre lake maintenance requires water quality testing, invasive species control, dock repairs, insurance. Bethany's budgeting for profit, I'm planning for stewardship. Here's your third knowledge nugget. Successful property auctions require not just winning the bid, but having immediate funds available and understanding ongoing maintenance obligations that can exceed purchase price. The technical preparation intensifies as auction day approaches. Bank paperwork finalized, cashier's checks secured, legal team briefed. But the emotional preparation matters more. I visit Miranda's grave the week before auction, sitting beside her headstone with the original lake photos from our house hunting days. She's trying to steal the place where you taught me to find peace, I tell her. But I've got this, honey. Navy logistics versus suburban Karen? No contest. The wind through cemetery trees sounds like encouragement. Jimmy reports Bethany's final moves: meetings with property management companies, consultations about lake subdivision possibilities, interviews with security firms. She's so confident she's already planning the grand opening of Willowbrook Recreation Center. She told someone on the phone that she'll eliminate the fishing problem permanently and turn neighborhood stupidity into profit, Jimmy says, looking disgusted. That quote becomes my rallying cry. She sees community as stupidity and neighbors as profit centers. Community building accelerates as auction day approaches. The Henderson family invites me for dinner, their kitchen full of the sounds of normal family life that Bethany's tried to regulate. Little Sarah shows me her drawings of fish and asks if I'll still teach her to cast after the mean lady is gone. Count on it, sweetheart. Mr. Patel, the accountant, offers financial backup if my bidding exceeds planned limits. This isn't just about you anymore, Dalton. She's made enemies of all of us. The night before auction, I'm in my garage, surrounded by maps, documents, and memories. 28 days of preparation, condensed into tomorrow morning's 10-minute bidding war. My phone buzzes with text messages. Good luck tomorrow, from Mrs. Kowalski. Kick her ass from the Hendersons. We believe in you from half the neighborhood. This stopped being about fishing rights weeks ago. Now it's about whether communities can defend themselves against predators who use bureaucracy as weapons. I pour Miranda's thermos full of coffee. The same thermos I'll carry to the courthouse tomorrow. The metal feels warm and familiar, like she's still here supporting the fight. The auction notice sits on my workbench. County tax sale, parcel 47B, Willowbrook Lake property. Minimum bid $47,247.83. Bethany thinks she's buying a lake. I'm buying back a neighborhood's soul. The alarm clock reads 11:52 p.m. In 10 hours and 8 minutes, I either save everything Miranda and I dreamed this place could be, or watch it become another casualty of suburban greed. But here's what Bethany doesn't understand. Navy logistics officers don't plan to fail. Tomorrow she learns what happens when you steal from someone who's got nothing left to lose and everything to fight for. Everything changes when Bethany discovers the tax auction through her real estate network. Jimmy witnesses her complete breakdown. She literally throws her coffee mug against the kitchen wall while screaming into her phone. She knows about the auction now, Jimmy reports, looking shaken. But she doesn't know you know. She's freaking out because she thought the lake was already hers. The panic triggers nuclear escalation. Suddenly I'm drowning in violation notices, unauthorized dawn activities, excessive waterfowl interaction, and my personal favorite, aggressive casting techniques creating public safety hazard. But her real desperation reveals itself when she tries to manufacture evidence against me. She files a police report claiming I menacingly approached her while wielding fishing equipment in a threatening manner. The incident? Me walking to the lake carrying my tackle box while she happened to be checking her mailbox. Officer Martinez arrives looking like he'd rather be investigating actual crimes. Sir, I have to follow up on a threat complaint. What threat exactly? He reads reluctantly. The subject approached complainant with fishing rod held in aggressive posture and made verbal statements suggesting future retaliation. I said, "Morning, Bethany," and walked past her. Martinez closes his notebook with obvious frustration. Sir, between you and me, we've had 6 calls about fishing disputes this month. This is getting ridiculous. But Bethany's masterstroke of desperation comes when she hires a private investigator to dig up dirt on me. The PI shows up at Mrs. Kowalski's house asking about my psychological state and potential for violence. Then he visits the Hendersons, questioning them about my interactions with children and unusual behavior patterns. Mrs. Kowalski calls me immediately, her voice shaking with anger. Some man in a cheap suit asked if you'd ever shown signs of military instability. I told him the only unstable person in this neighborhood was the woman who hired him. That's when I deployed my counterpunch. I call Commander Peterson, my former Navy supervisor, and explain the situation. 20 minutes later, he calls back laughing. Dalton, your PI problem just solved itself. Turns out, he's unlicensed and operating without proper credentials. I made a few calls. He's looking at charges for impersonating a legitimate investigator. The private eye disappears faster than morning mist off the lake. But Bethany's nuclear option backfires spectacularly when she attempts to organize neighborhood support against me. She calls an emergency community meeting titled Addressing Safety Concerns. 43 people show up, the largest turnout in HOA history. Bethany stands at the front looking haggard, her usual perfect appearance replaced by stress-induced deterioration. The smell of desperation mixed with too much perfume fills the clubhouse. This individual's escalating aggressive behavior threatens our community's safety and property values, she declares, gesturing at photos she's taken of me fishing. That's when Mr. Henderson stands up, his voice carrying the authority of a man who's had enough. Bethany, my 8-year-old daughter asks me every day why the nice man can't teach her to fish anymore. What exactly am I supposed to tell her? That we're protecting her from potentially dangerous. From what? Mrs. Kowalski interrupts. From a man who sits quietly drinking coffee and feeding ducks? The room erupts in murmurs of agreement. Bethany's lost the crowd before she's even started. But the real twist comes from an unexpected source. Janet Anderson, the quiet board member who rarely speaks, stands up holding a thick folder. Before we discuss safety concerns, maybe we should discuss financial ones. Her voice carries quiet authority. I've been auditing our HOA expenditures, and I've found some interesting patterns. The room goes dead silent. Janet continues. $18,000 for security services from a company owned by Mrs. Whitmore's family. Violation fines issued exclusively to residents who've questioned board decisions. Emergency meetings held without proper notice to push through questionable contracts. Bethany's face cycles through 6 shades of pale. That's completely inappropriate. What's inappropriate, Mr. Patel interjects, standing with his own folder, is using neighborhood funds to harass neighbors. I'm calling for immediate removal of current board leadership and a forensic audit of all expenditures. The vote isn't even close. 38 in favor of Bethany's removal, 3 against. She's officially fired by the same people she's been terrorizing. Bethany storms out, shrieking about ungrateful residents and legal consequences, her heels clicking like an angry typewriter across the linoleum. But Jimmy's final intelligence report reveals her Hail Mary play. She's meeting with lawyers about filing an emergency restraining order to keep you away from the lake before auction day. A restraining order to eliminate her auction competition by having me legally banned from the property. The sheer audacity takes my breath away. She's trying to weaponize the court system to steal a public auction. That night, I'm sitting by the lake with Miranda's tackle box, listening to the gentle lap of water against the shore. 3 weeks until auction day, and Bethany's playing her final cards. But she's forgotten something crucial. Navy logistics officers always have contingency plans. Time to show her what happens when you corner someone with nothing left to lose. Bethany's final card is pure desperation disguised as legal strategy. 3 days before the auction, Marcus calls with news that makes my blood run cold. She filed for an emergency restraining order, claims you pose an imminent threat to community safety, and wants you banned from all HOA property. The genius hits me immediately. Can't bid on a lake you're legally prohibited from approaching. What's her evidence? Brace yourself. She's claiming your escalating pattern of aggressive fishing constitutes stalking and harassment. She's got a psychological evaluation from Dr. Patricia Hendricks declaring you potentially dangerous based on observed behavioral patterns. A shrink who's never met me, diagnosing dangerousness from Bethany's description of my fishing routine. The hearing's tomorrow morning, 1 day before auction. If she gets even a temporary order, you're eliminated from bidding. That night, I'm strategizing with Marcus when Jimmy arrives with the evidence that destroys Bethany's case. She tried bribing me to sign a false statement, he says, pulling out his phone. But I recorded everything. The audio quality is crystal clear. Bethany's voice. Just say he threatened you with the fishing rod. We need documented incidents for court. Don't worry, you'll be well compensated for helping protect the community. Attempted bribery, solicitation of perjury, conspiracy to file fraudulent court documents. I also kept copies of every bogus report she made me write, Jimmy continues. The ones about your menacing tackle box positioning and aggressive waterfowl interaction patterns. Marcus actually laughs. She just committed felonies to lose a property auction. The restraining order hearing becomes Bethany's public humiliation. Judge Patricia Williams, a steel-hailed woman who clearly suffers no fools, examines the evidence with barely concealed disgust. Counselor, Judge Williams addresses Bethany's nervous lawyer, your client claims the respondent's fishing activities constitute threatening behavior? The lawyer shifts uncomfortably. Your Honor, the psychological evaluation indicates territorial dominance patterns, evidenced by aggressive equipment placement. Aggressive equipment placement? The judge holds up a photo of my tackle box. This folding chair and fishing gear? The witness statements document escalating intimidation tactics through strategic positioning near the complainant's residence. Judge Williams stares at him like he's speaking ancient Greek. The respondent fishes in the neighborhood lake from the same spot every morning? Yes, Your Honor, despite repeated warnings to cease threatening behavior. That's when Marcus stands with our counterstrike. Your Honor, we have audio evidence that petitioner attempted to bribe a witness into providing false testimony. The recording plays in absolute courtroom silence. Bethany's voice fills the room, clearly offering payment for fabricated statements. Her face goes through every shade of human panic as her own words condemn her. Judge Williams listens with mounting fury. When the audio ends, her voice could shatter steel. Counselor, is your client aware that soliciting false testimony is a Class D felony? Bethany's lawyer looks like he wants to disappear. Your Honor, your client was merely attempting to corrupt my courtroom with manufactured evidence. The judge's gavel hits like thunder. Motion denied. Petitioner is hereby ordered to cease all contact with respondent. Clerk will forward this matter to the district attorney for criminal review. Bethany's nuclear option just earned her a criminal investigation. But walking out of courthouse, Jimmy delivers news that changes everything. She's got backup investors, overheard her talking about some development company with unlimited funding. The scope becomes clear. She's not just buying lake access. She's planning to subdivide the property into premium waterfront lots. That evening, something beautiful happens. Word spreads about tomorrow's auction, and the community responds like antibodies fighting infection. Mrs. Kowalski arrives first, her hands shaking as she offers her life's savings. "Dalton, I've lived here 30 years. She wants to turn our neighborhood into some rich people's playground." The smell of her fresh coffee mingles with determination as neighbors arrive one by one. The Hendersons bring their checkbook, the Patels offer their investment account. Even quiet Mr. Rodriguez from the corner house shows up with cash. "This stopped being about fishing months ago," Henderson says. "She's trying to steal what makes this place home." By midnight, I've got backup funding pledges exceeding $180,000, 0 cents, not loans, gifts from neighbors who'd rather lose money than lose their community. The weight of their trust sits heavy in my chest. Tomorrow isn't just about outbidding Bethany. It's about proving that neighborhoods can defend themselves against predators who exploit bureaucracy for profit. I sit by the lake one last time before auction day, listening to gentle water sounds that might disappear forever if I fail. The morning air smells like possibility and fear mixed together. In 8 hours, I either save everything this neighborhood represents or watch it become another casualty of suburban greed. But here's what Bethany still doesn't understand. She's not just fighting one stubborn fisherman anymore. She's fighting an entire community that's finally had enough. Auction day dawns with perfect irony. Crystal blue skies and morning mist rising off the lake that's about to determine our neighborhood's fate. I arrive at the courthouse 30 minutes early, briefcase in hand containing certified funds and the dreams of 47 families. The usual lonely tax auction has become a community event. Mrs. Kowalski stands on the courthouse steps holding a thermos like it's a battle standard. The Hendersons brought their kids, who clutch handmade signs reading, "Save Our Lake." Even Mr. Rodriguez, the hermit from the corner house, stands with crossed arms and grim determination. Then I spot the media circus. Sarah Anderson from the Herald sets up her camera while Tom Bradley from Channel 7 tests his microphone. Word leaked about the HOA president trying to steal community assets for personal profit. Bethany arrives 10 minutes before auction time, flanked by a man in a $3,000 suit who screams, "Corporate investor." She looks haggard despite her power outfit. Stress has carved new lines around her eyes, and her hands shake as she clutches her briefcase. The expensive suit man surveys our neighborhood crowd with obvious alarm. "You didn't mention community involvement," I hear him tell Bethany. "It's handled," she snaps, but her voice lacks conviction. County Clerk Patricia Morrison calls auction to order at 10 a.m. sharp, her voice cutting through morning air like a blade. Axleen auction for parcel 47B, Willowbrook Lake property. Minimum bid, $47,247.83. The crowd falls silent except for camera shutters clicking like mechanical heartbeats. Opening bid at minimum? Bethany's hand shoots up. "Minimum bid accepted." I wait 5 full seconds, letting tension build, then raise my hand slowly. $50,000. Nervous murmurs ripple through the crowd. Bethany's face flashes shock. She thought her restraining order would eliminate me? Her corporate partner whispers urgently before she calls out $60,000. $70,000, I respond without hesitation. The bidding war escalates like a financial duel. At $80,000, Bethany starts sweating despite the cool morning. At $90,000, her corporate partner steps back, shaking his head. "I'm $100,000, she calls desperately. The crowd gasps. Even the news crews sense blood in the water. I stand up slowly, making sure every camera captures this moment, my voice carrying across the courthouse steps. Under $50,000. The silence hits like a physical force. Bethany stares at me like I've just materialized from thin air, her mouth opening and closing without sound. "Ma'am," the clerk prompts, "do you wish to bid?" Bethany looks at her abandoned financial partner, then at the neighborhood crowd watching her public humiliation, then back at me. For the first time in months, she has nothing to say. Going once at $150,000. The Henderson kids hold hands. Mrs. Kowalski clutches her thermos like a lifeline. Going twice. Bethany slumps onto the courthouse steps like a punctured balloon, finally understanding she's beaten by someone with deeper pockets and stronger community support. Sold to Dalton Reeves for $150,000. The courthouse steps explode. Mrs. Kowalski actually sobs with relief. The Henderson family hugs each other while their kids cheer like their team just won the Super Bowl. Even stoic Mr. Rodriguez pumps his fist in the air. Sarah Anderson pushes through the crowd with her microphone. "Mr. Reeves, what are your plans for the lake?" This is my moment. I look directly at the camera, then at Bethany, still sitting defeated on concrete steps, then back at the neighborhood that trusted me with their future. I'm immediately transferring ownership to the Willowbrook Estates community with permanent legal restrictions. No fees, no usage limitations, no board authority to restrict access. The lake belongs to the families who call this place home, not to predators who exploit communities for profit. The crowd erupts again, but I'm not finished. "And Bethany," I call out, making sure the cameras capture this, "next time you want to steal from a neighborhood, pick one that doesn't have a Navy logistics officer who knows how to fight back." The mic drop echoes across courthouse steps as Bethany finally stands, her expensive heels clicking one last time on public concrete. She walks away alone, while 47 neighbors celebrate victory over suburban tyranny. As promised, Tom Bradley from Channel 7 approaches for final comments. Any advice for other communities facing HOA overreach? I think of Miranda, of morning fishing, of what neighborhoods should be. Know your rights, document everything, and never let bullies convince you that greed is normal. Communities are worth fighting for. The cameras capture Bethany's car driving away as neighbors plan the first annual Freedom to Fish Festival around their permanently protected lake. Property deeds signed, community saved, and justice served with courthouse coffee. Sometimes the good guys actually win. 6 months later, I'm sitting on the same dock where Bethany first threatened to find me, watching something beautiful. The Henderson twins teaching Mrs. Kowalski's visiting grandson how to tie fishing knots, while their parents share coffee and morning gossip. The sound of children's laughter bouncing off water that belongs to all of us forever. This is what victory sounds like. The legal transfer happened fast once Marcus drafted the community deed restrictions. The lake now belongs permanently to Willowbrook residents with ironclad protections. No fees, no usage limits, no future board authority to restrict access. What should have been true from day one is now legally guaranteed forever. Bethany's downfall was spectacular. The criminal charges from her perjury attempt led to convictions for attempted bribery and filing false police reports. 6 months probation, community service, and permanent loss of her real estate license. Her brother-in-law's security company lost all municipal contracts when the kickback scheme became public record. She moved out within 2 months, selling to a young military family with toddler twins who love feeding ducks at sunrise. The new neighbors fit perfectly. People who understand that communities thrive on cooperation, not domination. But the real transformation goes deeper than one bad actor leaving. The culture of fear Bethany created, neighbors afraid to check mail, kids banned from swimming, elderly residents terrorized by tape measures, vanished like she never existed. Mrs. Kowalski started Coffee and Community Thursday mornings, where neighbors plan actual improvements instead of manufacturing violations. Her kitchen smells like cinnamon rolls and friendship while we discuss playground upgrades and block party logistics. The first annual Freedom to Fish Festival drew 300 people, including families from neighboring communities who heard our story on the news. Local businesses donated prizes, the fire department provided safety demos, and Jimmy Cortez, now studying criminal justice, taught water safety to dozens of kids. Jimmy's transformation mirrors the neighborhood's. From reluctant security guard writing bogus reports to community leader organizing volunteer lake maintenance, getting fired from that job was the best thing that ever happened to me. Mr. Patel's forensic audit recovered every penny of misappropriated HOA funds, $23,000, 0 cents total, which we used for legitimate improvements, new playground equipment, sidewalk repairs, and my personal favorite, a memorial garden honoring neighborhood military veterans. The garden sits beside the lake with white roses and a weathered bench facing the water. The plaque reads, Miranda's Memorial Garden, in honor of those who served our country and found peace in quiet waters. Miranda would have loved watching children learn to fish where we plan to grow old together. The Miranda's Memorial Fishing Scholarship has funded outdoor education for 37 local kids so far, teaching them that nature belongs to everyone, not just people wealthy enough to buy access. Every scholarship recipient gets a basic tackle box and learns that fishing is about finding peace, not catching fish. Property values increased 15% after Bethany left. Turns out buyers prefer neighborhoods where communities support each other instead of measuring grass with rulers and issuing fines for patriotic decorations. The story went viral beyond anything I expected. My email overflows with messages from residents fighting their own HOA tyrants, asking advice about property research and community organizing. I answer every one with the same message: know your rights, document everything, and never let bullies convince you that their authority is real. But the most meaningful change is personal. My morning fishing returned to therapeutic ritual instead of daily warfare. The familiar weight of Miranda's tackle box, the smell of lake water mixed with fresh coffee, the gentle sound of lines cast into welcoming water. Sometimes Mrs. Kowalski waves from her kitchen window, not hiding anymore, just friendly acknowledgement between neighbors who've been through hell together and come out stronger. This morning, little Sarah Henderson asks if she can sit beside me while I fish. Her parents smile and nod, trusting that their daughter is safe with the man who fought to keep their community a place where children can be children. Mr. Dalton, why did that mean lady try to take away our lake? Some people think power means making others smaller, sweetheart, but real strength comes from making your community bigger. She nods seriously, then asks the important question: will you teach me to cast like you taught my brother? Count on it. As sunset paints the lake gold, I pack Miranda's gear with peace in my heart. Tomorrow I'll be back, casting lines into water that belongs to everyone who calls this place home. Your turn. Drop a comment with your worst HOA nightmare. Let's build an army of people who refuse to let petty tyrants win. Hit subscribe for more stories proving that sometimes the good guys actually do win.